Hey guys, welcome to our show, The Hype Mind. Today we're hosting Sam, business owner. We're going to talk to him about his business. I met Sam a while ago. Sam and I had a great conversation, and I want to continue that.
Splendid.
So Sam,
Yeah.
how's your day today?
Today is the start of my busy season. Well, I shouldn't say today. I should say the last week or so has been the start of the busy season for us. Today I was on 4 roofs doing inspections, as well as gutter inspections. It You can always tell when the weather starts getting nicer. That's when everybody gets crazy busy. So even other friends of mine that are other contractors in other lines of work, they're all getting calls bombarded right now because generally speaking, as soon as the weather starts to turn nice, homeowners are like, "Oh, we should probably get on this."
Yeah, they have all their projects. They see their projects. They go outside and they're like,
Yeah. What's
good time to
interesting
work on this. Yeah.
But what's interesting is a lot of us contractors are so backed up and busy right now, that, like, let's say you called today, right? And you said, "Hey,
Right.
I want to put a porch on the back of my house." Most of the contractors that I know are booking for July and August right now for a lot of that work.
Wow.
I'm glad you bring up porches because that's my interest. No, not really. So I'm curious, what does your business specialize in? You specifically are roofing.
Yeah, so I actually started Integrity Roofing after I had a bad experience at another roofing company that I was working for. And so I focused.
Isn't that how it starts?
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
Pain is a good motivator.
It is. What I saw when I was there was a lot of corners being cut, a lot of half information given to the homeowners. So not an outright
Hence your name,
lie,
huh?
but hence the name, exactly. And it's funny because even on my pens, it says Integrity Roofing.
No
It's not
corners
just a
cut.
name, right? So because that's how I am. I tell it like it is. I'm very blunt, very honest, even with my homeowners and my customers. And I find that goes a lot farther here in the Northeast than beating around the bush or telling a homeowner, yeah, we can do that, and then getting the project, and then you're like, yeah, I can't do that. You know what I mean?
Someone's going to shoot me for this later, but that's very masculine of you.
Well, you just tell it like it is, right? And people, I think, respect that more. I'm a homeowner at the same time, right? I've had estimates and I've had people come to my house and they'll be like, "Oh, is your wife here?" And I'm like, "No, she's at work." In fact, I had a guy come and do an estimate for siding years ago, and I was like, "No, she's at work," and he goes, "Oh, I can't do the presentation then without her here." And I'm like, "What does it matter if my wife's here or not?" And he's like, "Well, we have a policy that we always do the presentation to both homeowners at the same time." And I said, "Look, buddy," I said, "the only thing my wife wants to do is pick the color. That's it. She gets anxiety over the finance part of it. She doesn't want anything to do with the finance. So that's all me anyways. So literally, go ahead and give me your pitch." And he's like, "Oh, we really need to have both homeowners here." And I'm like, "All right, well, the front door's right there and you're more than welcome to use it."
Nice.
So
Best place to come from with negotiating.
yeah, honestly, it's a lot of companies, and I see it in the roofing industry too, all do the same thing. It's the same spiel, right? So it's, I need to have both homeowners home, because that eliminates an excuse of I need to talk to my wife or my significant other, right? And then my other favorite line is, "Listen, if you sign right now, I can save you $5,000. Okay, so why can't you save me that same $5,000 in 2 days or 3 days after I've had a chance to talk to my wife or significant other, and go over everything and make sure we're on the same page before we make a giant financial decision with a roof or siding project?"
Yeah.
you're not talking $1,200. You're talking $20,000. If you made a decision like that without talking to your person that you're with, you're not going to be with them very long. Now, with that being said, there are some folks that, you know, I met some homeowners, and they're like, yeah, let's do it. Let's sign off right now. And I said, do you want to take some time to talk to your wife or husband or whatever? Nope, I make all the decisions in the house for this or that. All right, perfect, no problem. You know, but it's all about the sales tactics, and it's sneaky and underhanded.
Right. You're real.
So I'm curious.
One thing, when I called you, when I called you, I think it was a week ago, but I love that I answered the phone. You just yelled, "It's good morning," and I was like, great, thank you.
Well, because if it's somebody I see in my phone that I know, I'll either answer the phone with "Good morning, Vietnam," you know, from the old Robin Williams movie,
right,
or something completely random. So, and
I think
it's
we're related
because sometimes it bites
Pretty
me in
sure.
the foot, and they're like, "Dude, I'm on speakerphone." I'm like, "Sorry, like that." Tad bit inappropriate there.
I think we're all related.
You know what? It keeps things light, and it's fun,
right? And it's simple. You're not like, you're not trying to get something out of me. You're just saying good morning, and you're saying it enthusiastically, and it's that simple.
How many times have you asked somebody, "Hey man, how's your day going?" Or you see somebody, right, and you say, "How's it going?" And they go, "Good." And they just keep walking, right? Because people, as a general rule, we don't listen to comprehend and understand. We listen to respond, right? So when you call me and I'm like, "Good morning," right? And I'm excited, I'm positive, right? It throws you off because you're already ready for whatever you have this preconceived notion of the conversation and how it's going to go.
Right.
Dan, what does Tony Robbins call that? Big is it big action?
We call it massive action.
Yes, massive action.
Kind of
shocking yourself. It's shocking someone.
It's like breaking the cycle of your the rhythm that you're in.
Well, because we all fall into people.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all do. I mean, like, so you could have the worst day of your life, right? Your dog dies, your wife leaves you, your house burns to the ground, right? But you're going to see somebody and you're going to walk by them and they're going to go, "How are you?" You're going to go, "I'm good," and just keep going, right? Because it's the pre-programmed response. It's the same no matter what. On the same token,
subconscious.
Yeah. So if I met you, right, and you were like, "Hey, how's it going?" And I'd be like, "Oh, my dog died." You would be like, "Oh, okay, cool," and keep walking, because you don't actually listen to comprehend. It's the funniest thing. Try it sometime when you're out somewhere. Somebody will say something, be like, "Hey man, how are you?" Just come back with a completely random thing, and I swear you're gonna get the response of, "Oh, cool, that's good." Or
right. Well, what I hear a lot is, it's not what you say, it's how you say it.
Yes, that's one of my favorite things to tell my kids. Tone and intonation is everything, right? So you can say something one way, which directly corresponds to your attitude, right? So you can have a positive attitude, and say something really negative, and it's still going to come out better than if you were just like Eeyore voice, you know.
Don't hate on my favorite character.
He is by far one of my favorite characters, and if you ever notice, no. If you ever notice, from Winnie the Pooh, they are all different types of disorders.
Personality, different personality.
Well, Tigger is ADHD. Rabbit is anxiety. Eeyore is depression. It's really funny, but they're
Pooh
all
is
based.
ignorance.
Wow.
Yep. They're all based. The kangaroo and Roo, the baby, is the mothering nature.
Yeah,
it's really funny.
It's not something I'm gonna watch, but just to know.
No, you should. You should. It's worth watching it again. It's kind of weird that you guys bring that up, because my family was just watching that the other day with my little siblings. But
the new one,
I'm curious.
There's
I think
new
it was
one?
the new one. Yeah.
Oh, that was really good.
Don't ask me how it was. I heard it was good. Yeah,
Did you watch the Mr. Rogers too?
No.
With Tom Hanks.
No.
Yeah, See, you missed a good one.
I guess I believe you. I believe you.
Hey, it's still
It was
out there.
better
It's
than
still fun to
Castaway.
watch it.
But what I want to know is, I got a couple of questions. The first is your business, being roofing. Is that something? Is that something you started because you saw flaw somewhere else, or because you're passionate about serving others, or because roofing
Want
is
to
like
start a
an interest?
business.
Like where did that come
The
from?
business side of it. Yeah.
Like, do you
Yeah,
enjoy what you do?
yeah. So
And
I
I assume the answer is yes, because you seem like you know how to enjoy whatever you do. But
you have to enjoy whatever you do, right? So like the old saying, if you enjoy what you do, you're never going to work a day in your life.
right,
And it's true because I've done the cubicle job. Like I worked for Geico as an adjuster. I can tell you it was miserable. I worked for Comcast as an analyst. It was miserable. Um, but you do what you have to do to support your family, and
right,
it is what it is, and it's all perspective, right? And how you go into it.
right. There's that attitude again.
Yeah. So Danny will tell you, I'm actually a pretty upbeat, positive person. I'd say 90% of the time. We all have our days.
Mm-hmm.
But I've been doing woodworking for years. I've built tables and chairs, and I made a Lazy Susan for an AA group so they could play Scrabble. I mean, just
Nice.
completely random things sometimes, and it's really just for me to be able to unwind and relax. And I was working at another major company, and during COVID, we were working legitimately 65 to 80 hours a week. So I would go in on Monday morning at 7 a.m. and I wouldn't get home sometimes at night till 8:30, 9 o'clock. And I was doing it Monday through Saturday. It was absolutely brutal.
Takes over your whole life.
Yeah, I had no life. In fact, when I went to register my motorcycle, the lady's like, "You don't have a motorcycle." And I go, "Yeah, yes, I do. I registered it last year." And she goes, "No, you didn't." I
Damn.
literally never rode my bike the entire year because
You've
I
been
was working so much.
fantasizing.
Yeah, yeah.
You were
And by the time
fans.
you get out of work, you don't want to do anything. You don't want to ride home because you're exhausted. Like,
Yeah.
so my daughter was 8 at the time, and she was talking to my father-in-law, and she's like, "Yeah, Dad pretty much lives at work and he visits the house sometimes." And that hit home for me.
Burn. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would hit. Um, so at the time, I was getting some work done to my own home, having a roof put on and some siding, and we actually changed out the wall that's behind me. No, there's more Legos. Never mind.
Mm-hmm.
So
You know who else
You
is
picked up a
into
new
Legos?
hobby, huh? You
I
ditched the woodworking.
I did Legos during COVID. I will admit it, dude. I've got a
So
ton
did
of
No,
I.
it's all right.
So did I.
So
So funny enough, when COVID happened, I was in Boston working for the military, and so I was still in my own little dorm room, so to speak. I went home with my pickup truck, got my huge box of Legos, and took it back to Boston and just built stuff because you couldn't leave, you couldn't go anywhere.
oh
And I was like, I'm not going to play video games or something. So
yeah, dude, Legos are awesome. They're
COVID.
they're fantastic. Like both my daughters do Legos with me. It's a blast. Like Danny will tell you, I've got like the Millennium Falcon, I've got the Destroyer, I've got the Titanic. Like the bigger the kit, the funner it is.
The better. Yep. Oh yeah. You're never content building. You got to
Yeah,
build
I was
something
not
bigger every
expecting
time.
that many Legos.
Yeah, because you can take them apart, right, and build something completely different, right? So
Right.
it's all about Legos is a great representation of life, right? So you can build your house, right?
Oh
And
man,
then
that's so
when
fun.
you're like, hey, you know what? It's not quite what I wanted. It's okay because you can take some of that down and start again. It's all on you as an individual, what you want to do, right? So one of the things I tell my kids
That's
is that we all make choices in life,
Mm-hmm.
right?
yeah.
What do I take, the left path or do I take the right path? And we all make those choices, but then it's up to us to live with the choices that we make. the cool thing about Legos and the cool thing about life is you can make some really bad choices and you can still rebuild from it. It's just the individual.
I love where you're going with this. It's so funny you say that because a few weeks ago I'd heard something. They were talking about Navy SEAL training, and this guy goes, "They want the men who can break the most and still get up and be broken again." And so I'd been contemplating that for weeks. I'd been thinking about that for weeks. And so funny that you say that you can just take the Lego and build something bigger, right? You can take something, break it apart, and build something even greater with it. And so
Yeah.
today, while I was driving home from work, I was thinking, and I was just running through ideas in my head. And so I ended up typing down this quote. I said, as a person, I refuse to be hurt or a victim. If you break me, I will put myself back together with better pieces and stand up even taller. With every setback, I touch the sky that much more.
Yep.
And while I was thinking about that and writing it down, because I like that thought, I was literally thinking of Legos. So it's so weird that you bring this up tonight while we're doing this podcast.
So Legos is a great example for life in general, right? And so I think that's why I enjoy doing construction and roofing and because I get to build something. I get to give something to my homeowner or my customer, something that they couldn't do themselves, or maybe they just didn't have time to do themselves, right? And I get to give them a product back, and I feel accomplished at the end of the day. Whereas in the past, when I was an analyst or working insurance, it wasn't always like that. You didn't get that great feeling of accomplishment at the end of the day going, yeah, I built that. I did that. It was, yeah, I checked 500 emails today. Ooh, like
I spun in the rest of the mechanism of the cog or of the machine.
yeah, yep, yeah. You feel like just another piece in there. So it's funny. So when I met Danny,
Well, I really
like,
liked. Go ahead. Go ahead.
no, go ahead.
So I thought it was really neat how you were sharing that experience of you in the beginning, talking about, you were working for this company, you saw all of these corners being cut, and that you saw ethics that you didn't, what's the word? They weren't congruent with who you were. And so you decided to start your own company, right? And now
Yep.
that might look different for a lot of people. Some people might look for a new job, right? But you, I would say, took a step further than that and decided to create your own company. And it's also funny because I've had this conversation with several people, including myself, where I've been like, I'll use my sister as an example, right? She talks about her work, and there's always a dilemma where someone else's ethics aren't as high, and
Yep.
that's not okay, right? And so naturally, being human and having morality built into our nature, we have a problem with that, right? And I've
Yep.
been like, look, what you need to do is start your own practice, and I've told that to several people, including myself. I've been like, well, I think the next best thing is to eventually start my own business somewhere. So I'm curious how that went for you, because that's
Yeah.
a big decision.
So it's a really scary decision. Um, so I went to work for this other roofing company, construction company, and I realized there was stuff going on that I didn't like. Um, you know, when I studied business ethics in college, it was, what would your mom say if she saw you on the news having this conversation? And that's great, right? But there are so many different types of integrity and morality and the way that they coincide. So my professor at the time actually showed us a clip from The Godfather, where all the guys are all sitting around the table discussing whether to sell cocaine or not. And to them, this is a normal business discussion, right? So to them, their ethics, their morality, that's where they are. They're like, oh, it's just another business tactic. Like, do we, we do muscle for hire, we do this and that. Do we want to sell cocaine? And it was a really interesting eye opener of a course. So I always consider myself that I have a very high level of integrity, is how I feel, right? So I can never pass those stupid honesty test things that you get before you go work for a company, because I'm too honest. And you're supposed
Like
to
a
fail for any
polygraph
of
or
them. Yeah, like that. Hey, if you saw your brother stealing, would you report him?
oh, right.
Right. And then later on, they would ask you another question that's very similar to it, but not quite the same question, to see if you would still. And yeah, I don't care. Stealing. So yes, I'm going to report him. So because I'm too honest, I can never pass those things. I couldn't even get a job at Taco Bell when I was a kid because I can't pass those.
They're like, sorry, your
So
bar's too high for us.
it's just funny, right? So I was doing a job for this other company, and I won't mention any names, right? But I was doing a job for this other company, and we were going to do a veteran give back where we literally give a veteran a free roof. They get nominated through their local communities or through the VFW or the Lions Club or any one of those things. And the other project manager is sitting in the front seat with one of the other guys, and I'm in the back seat. And he goes, "Hey, can you fill out some work orders for the crew so we can get them paid?" And I said, "Yeah, man, no problem. I'm just sitting back here. I'm not doing anything." But I didn't bring my clipboard because this is more like a photo op, and I'm gonna pick up trash and lay some shingles. Like, and he goes, "Oh, don't worry, I got my clipboard right there on the seat next to you." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." He goes, "They should be right there on the top." So I open the clipboard and I don't see anything. So I open the next layer of the clipboard and there's the work orders and a bounty ball size baggie of cocaine. And that was it. I was like, you know what? This is not for me. Um, and I reported it to the owner of the company when we got back, and 2 weeks later I was laid off. So that was 2 weeks before Christmas, December of 2021. Yeah.
Wow.
So that makes me think of there's something about that where when you think of men, right? I don't know a whole lot about this book, right? But I imagine this is what Jack Donovan had to talk about. I've heard a couple of his speeches when he talks about men and tribalism and how you form your tribe based on trust.
Yeah.
And like there's, I don't think there's anything because for me, I see that and I'd be like, I can't work with you. Like you don't take your job seriously. How can I take you seriously?
Yeah.
You're doing cocaine on the job. Like that shows your level of self-respect and your level of respect for your job and the person whose house you're working on. Like, so how do I know I can, if you
And
have
the
no
people
respect for
around you.
anything?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Right. So
Yeah.
roofing in itself is very dangerous, right?
Yeah.
People get hurt all the time. One little misstep and you're going. In fact, there was a gentleman who just fell 4 stories a couple days ago in Londonderry, New Hampshire.
Damn.
Yeah, I mean it's scary, right? So if
Did
you're
he
not
live?
wearing your harness and doing the right thing, that's it doesn't take much. One little tiny step. That's all it takes. Um, so I I'll be honest, I came home, I was beyond livid. Um, and my wife's like, "Well, we'll wait till after Christmas. Let's get through the holidays and then kind of go from there."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Yeah, yeah." So
You're like,
December
nah, man.
27th. It's tough. You try to put on a smile and a brave face. I have two
Right.
daughters,
Right.
and so December 27th, my foreman, my current foreman, reached out to me and he goes, "Hey man, I wanted to check in on you and make sure you and your family are okay. If you guys needed anything." He goes, "I heard what happened to you at the other company." And he was one of the people I worked with. He was one of the subcontractor crews. Um, and I told him what happened, and he's like, I don't know what to say. He goes, "But if you decide to open your own roofing company, you let me know and I'll come work for you." And I'm like, "Are you
Wow.
serious?" And he's like, "You've always treated us with respect. You take really good care of the crew." Um, and one of the things that I noticed was I make it a point, right, to learn all of the crew members' names, whether it's a nickname or their first name or whatever. If I see somebody new when they show up or when I'm at the job site and they get there and they start offloading and stuff, if I see somebody new, I take it upon myself to go introduce myself. "Hey, I'm Sam. I own Integrity
Someone,
Roofing.
someone
Your
read Dale
name
Carnegie,
is."
huh?
Yeah, you know what? Because to me, it's a respect thing. Like, and I didn't realize it until we were doing a house earlier this year for charity, and one of the guys was there with my daughter, and he says, "Hey, I really want to say thank you for working with us." And she says, "No, I really love doing this." but I don't quite understand. And he goes, well, a lot of people don't want to work with immigrants. And I was like,
Damn.
why? Right. So it completely caught me off guard. And she goes, I don't know why. You guys work harder than anybody else I know. The guys they don't do drugs. They rarely drink, right? Um, Literally, I've never heard a single complaint out of any of them. And when I do, it's usually in Spanish, so I don't always catch all of it. But that's the funny thing. Like, so a couple weeks ago, I was doing a roof in Amesbury, Mass, and I look over, and Viejo's got these shoes on, man. If you want to call them shoes, there wasn't much left of them. Right, we're trudging through 8 inches of snow to get to the ladder, and carrying all the materials to the roof and everything else. And I look over and I see him wiggle his toe through his shoe. Right, I can literally see his sock because the hole is pretty big. And I'm like, Viejo, where's your shoes? And he's like, no dinero, poquito dinero. I don't have a lot of money. And I said, okay. I ordered him new shoes that instant right there on the spot. I'm like, what size? And he's like 8.5. So I'm like, done. I had him delivered 2 days later, and I got him new shoes. I've never seen a man almost cry from getting new shoes. That was, but at the end of the day, they're people, right? They work hard. They love hard. It's just, to me, it was astounding. Anybody else would have been like, yeah, I got to go home, man. I don't have any good shoes to wear. Like, nope. I could literally see his sock.
Right. His priority is putting in the work and taking care of his family.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And you have
and
to.
It's amazing how you do. And it's amazing how when you come from a place of not taking things for granted.
Yep.
This attitude you're talking about that they have of gratefulness and no complaints, just putting their nose down and doing the work and doing it right. Yeah.
Yep. And it's interesting. So I talked to a lot of other folks in the industry, and across the industry that everything kind of gets standardized pricings. And so roofing is done in squares, just like siding is done in squares, just like carpets or tile floors or anything like that. It's usually done in squares. So a square is 100 square feet, or the equivalent of 3 pieces of plywood. 3 4x8 pieces of plywood makes 100 square feet. And so the average across the board, and I'm in a ton of groups from across the country too, but the average is about $100 to $115 a square is what you would pay for labor for doing your roofing.
Did you mean by groups just other roofing?
Yeah. Other roofing companies, like the previous company I worked for, paid $130 a square, but the average is right around $115 a square, and you're like, all right, well, that sounds pretty good, right? But the amount of work that it takes to do 1 square roofing is incredible. So you have to strip everything off, then you have to put down new underlayments, then you have to start nailing the new shingles down. So an average split level ranch, right, is usually about 20 squares, give or take. So times 115, it's $2,300. Okay.
How big is a square in feet, to put it in perspective?
In what?
In feet, how big is a square? You're not talking 1 square foot.
Yeah, so a square is 100 square feet, or
Holy
the equivalent.
Cow.
Yeah,
oh my gosh, yeah, 115 doesn't sound good at all.
Yeah, so if you laid 3 pieces of plywood down, 3 4x8 sheets of plywood, that's 1 square. That's probably the easiest way to come up with the size of it. Right.
115 no.
So if you said, all right, well, so the average house, we'll call it 20 squares, right? For like a split level ranch, it's pretty common, 20 squares. At $115 a square, that's $2,300, right? Now you get 12 guys on the site. That means each guy only makes $190 per day. And a day can be anywhere between 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. or 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. but I can tell you that most of the guys only make about $140 a day, $150 a day. If they do a 10-hour day, it's $14 an hour. It's not a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah, when you break it down
that's
that way,
barely
like,
livable,
right. And
especially
then
in today's economy.
exactly. So when I created my company, I was like, I'm not doing that, right? And there are things that will increase the value of the roofing. So if it's a really steep pitch, um, roofing companies generally charge more for if it's over like a 6 or a 7 pitch, which is the rise over run. So the steeper the roof, they usually charge more. If there's additional layers of shingles, they charge more. And there's just a ton of different things, right? So I saw it as an opportunity because I don't want to do an accounting nightmare where you have a roof that's a bunch of different shapes and you're like, okay, so this section, this 10 square is at this rate, and this 5 square is at this rate, but this other 10 square is at this rate.
So
It
what
just
you're getting at is you found a way to simplify it for your business. You did something different.
Yeah. So if the average across the country is 115 a square, I pay my crew $180 a square. Right? Huge difference.
Yeah.
People think I'm absolutely crazy. Guess what? I never have to do though. I never have to go back to a house to fix an issue because if they see something,
Yeah.
they immediately
They do it
fix it
right.
right there, or they bring it
Yeah.
to my attention. They fix it right the first time.
You get what you pay for.
Yeah, yeah, you do.
Yeah.
And if I call my guy, I called my guy
Cheap
earlier
labor is cheap
today.
labor.
Yeah, I called my guy earlier today. I'm like, hey, dude, I got an opportunity to do a siding job in Plum Island. Are you interested? And he's like, yeah. When do you want to go? And I'm like, Monday. And he's like, done. No
Yeah.
questions
Wow.
asked. No, like he's like, I'm like, you're gonna have enough people to do that and the roof we have going on Monday too. And he's like, yep, no problem. Like we did a house right before Christmas. It was 7 degrees out. 7 before the wind chill. It was freezing, literally. And then I get to the site and I go, guys, it's really cold. Do you want to do this today? And it was a leak repair, so we were roofing like a little garage and then half of a house. Um, and they talked amongst themselves for a minute. And they're like, yeah, we got it, boss. We'll do it. I'm like, are you sure? Because it's 7 degrees out. Like, nope.
So I think I already can confidently say I know the answer to this, but I think a lot of people would wonder, how is your company doing? Like if you're paying people that generously,
Yep.
Tell us how successful your business is.
Who was the
You
other?
started it when? How long have you had your business?
So I opened my company January 3rd of 2022. So I'm just over a year in. I am nonstop busy, which is incredible. Even during the wintertime. So we had a great, I shouldn't say great. We had that windstorm that ripped through New England right before Christmas. I did a ton of patches and repairs for the insurance company I do work for. That kept us pretty well busy. And then I did a deck in Drake, Mass for a friend of mine who kept getting outrageous quotes for this deck. I'm like, that's way too much, man. And he goes, well, what do you think you could do it for? And I said, probably, I think I could do it for like 18,000. And he goes, what about the front deck? And I go, no, that's your back deck and your front deck for 18,000. And he's like, are you serious? And I go, yeah. And he goes, dude, I've been getting estimates for like 25, 27, 28, 30.
Dude,
like,
I know a guy who would love your business card.
It's crazy because people look, I get it, right? It's supply and demand. Contractors are in short supply. Demand is still high. But you don't need to pillage people, right? Like give them a fair price, give them fair work, and they're happy. So yeah,
right. You're here to
pay
serve, not.
Yeah, so I pay my crew really well. And I said, hey guys, do you want to come down and help out with the deck? And what would have taken me eight hours to take apart, these 4 guys took apart in literally an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes, and had everything loaded in the trailer done. And he looks at me and he goes, anything else, boss? And I said, no. Now, bear in mind, we pay by the whole day, right? So in this case, each guy was getting $150 a day. They showed up. They took apart the whole deck, everything. I'm waiting for materials to get delivered. And they're like, is there anything else? Excuse me. Is there anything else? And I said, no, man. I said, this was the easiest day you're ever going to have. So go enjoy your time off. And he's like, but we get paid for the whole day. And I said, yeah, I'm going to pay you for the
You're
whole
like,
day.
you did a day's worth of work. Yeah. You
Yeah,
already did the work.
legit, because it would have taken me 8 hours. Me and my partner, Carden, 8 hours to take apart this deck. They took it apart in 2 hours and had it loaded in the trailer, ready to go. So I literally left the job site. I got there at 7:30. I left there at like 9:30, 9:45 after talking to the homeowner. Went to the dump, dropped my load at the dump, and then went home. And the guys were like, and my foreman calls me. He goes, "You didn't want him to do anything else?" I'm like, "There was nothing else to do. We're all set. The demo was what we were doing today." And he's like,
Nice.
"Oh, really?" I'm like, "Yeah, like enjoy the time. Like, go spend time with your family. Go do something you want to do. Like." But again, these guys never complain ever. So when they get a gift like that, quote unquote, like they don't know how to handle it. They don't know what to say. They're like, nobody does that, you know? Because I pay really well to my crew takes really good care of me, and I don't end up doing a bunch of callbacks or going back to homes to fix stuff that should have been caught the first time around, right? Like,
saves a lot of time, which saves a lot of money too. So
exactly. You know,
then
you
you can
send a crew
go
back.
work on another project.
Yeah, you send a crew back to go to a house that you've already completed. You're literally wasting fuel. You're wasting tolls. You're wasting their time. They're not working on another project. So you know, it really does go back to you get what you pay for.
It's a setback.
Yeah. So I've had my days, don't get me wrong, where I started my company. I got my tax return in January, and I started my company with a $5,000 in my bank account for my business. And I've had days where I look at my account and I've got $140,000. And then I've got other days where it's like, am I going to be able to put gas in the truck?
Yeah.
You know, it's
well, so I asked that question because what I've heard is a lot of times people say, well, anybody who starts a new business, they're either going to fail or they're going to, the first 3 years, they're not going to make anything.
yeah.
And
I heard
so
the
like,
first
what
5
is your
years.
experience, or 5 years, something like that?
Right.
What's been your experience with that? Like, have you proved that wrong? It sounds like your company's thriving.
Yeah. So my first year in business, I had a goal. You know, I studied marketing. I studied business in college. I have my master's in business and my bachelor's in marketing. And so I went into the bank with a business plan, and they looked at it and they were like, "No, really, what are you going to actually try and do this first year?" And I'm like, my first year, I want to gross $250,000. That's what I want to do my first year. And they were like, that's not realistic. Okay.
Americans.
Cool. Can I open a business account? I have $5,000 I want to start my account with. And they were like, yeah. So I opened my account, and it's funny. Literally, I've had days where I have $140,000 in my account, and then I have other days where I'm like, all right, I got enough to get gas to get to this next assignment, you know, or collect a deposit check from a customer to get the next job rolling. And it's really tough your first couple of years. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. Did you hit your goal?
I actually crushed my goal. So my goal was 250,000 in gross sales for my first year. I think I came out to 549,000 and change.
Wow.
Yeah.
More than doubled. Wow.
Yeah. So
that bank didn't want to see you go, huh?
No. And what's funny, right, is I started my company January 3rd. That's when I registered with the state of New Hampshire. I didn't do my first roof until March 30th.
Wow.
So in 9 months, I did over $500,000 in revenue. And you know, obviously gross sales.
What was it like to get started in that first month, or not first? That
man, it was
said so 2 months.
Yeah, it was tough. It was scary. So I took January and February and the first 3 quarters of March, and I ordered door tags, right, from Vistaprint. And I literally drove through my neighborhoods looking for houses that I saw that had damage. And we were lucky. We didn't get a lot of snow last year.
Hmm.
So, it was pretty easy to see. And I remember I stopped at this one house, and they literally live right up the street from me, maybe a quarter mile up the road. And I saw this house, and I got out. I went out. I knocked on the door, and this little older lady comes out, and she said, "Can I help you?" And I said, "Actually, I was kind of hoping I could help you. I own Integrity Roofing. I would like to, give you a competitive bid on your roof. I'm not going to hold anything back. I'm brand new as my own company, but I've got years and years of experience doing construction." And she said, "I really appreciate that, but we just don't have the money for it." I was like, "All right, no problem." Right. So that was my first house I ever went to. Uh, what was it? June, July, August. It was like right around August or so. We went back to that same house, and I knocked on the door, and sure enough, she came out to the door again. And I said, "You may not remember me." I said, "But about 9 months ago, 8 or 9 months ago, I said, I came by here and I asked if I could give you a bid on your roof." And she goes, "Oh, yeah, yeah, we still don't have the money." I said, "Cool, because I'm not asking for any money." I said, "I want to do your roof 100% for free." And she was like, "What?" So I told her the story. I said, "When I first started, you were the first house I went to. You literally live a quarter mile down the road from me. Um, and you said at the time, 'I'm sorry, we don't have the money.'" I said, "Well, I'm here to tell you that I don't want your money. I just want to do your roof for you." And she was like
It's passion.
dumbfounded. She didn't know what to say, right? So I said, "Look, I get it." I said, "It's a lot like Publishers Clearinghouse showing up at your front door." She goes, "Can I get my husband?" And I said, "Yeah, by all means." So her husband comes out, and he says, "Yeah, what's the catch?" Typical, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like some, and I
I
Yeah.
knew it.
yeah, I said, "Dude, there's no catch." I said, "I want to do your roof 100% for free. All my guys are going to volunteer for the day." I partnered with like another company, Reed's Removal, that does dumpsters. He volunteered and donated a dumpster for the day and took care of all the disposal fees. Owens
Wow.
Corning donated a bunch of the materials, and I picked up the tab on the rest of it. And he was just dumbfounded. And so I said, "Look, man, I'm gonna get you a contract. It's gonna show $0 for everything." And he goes, "All right." So I bring the contract by, and I said, "Look, right here, man. It's signed by me." I said, it shows $0. You will not owe me a cent." And he goes, "Okay." So that Saturday we get to the house, right? And he comes out to meet me, and he says, he says to me, he says, "Well, I should have known about a couple weeks." And I said, "What's in a couple weeks?" And he goes, "I figure in a couple weeks I'll figure out if I'm getting screwed or not." And I'm dying, right? Because I'm like, I'm telling you, man, you're not. Like, this is
Oh,
100%
No
legit.
tricks. Yeah.
right.
I have the
Look
building
at
permit in
the
hand. Like, you know what I
Right.
mean? Like,
well,
oh my God.
that's the America we live in. Is nobody does anything for
Right.
anybody, and so
No.
nobody expects it. But like at the same time, that right there is that's what owning a successful business looks like. If I
Yeah.
had to face it myself, like to the point where you are doing so well that you can freely give what you have to offer without needing to ask for money.
Yeah. That was a,
Part of it is for the well-being of your crew and your own family, but like once you reach that place of abundance, so to speak, or at least
Hmm.
above the place of success and comfort, you're able to
yep.
offer
And
back
then,
what you've
yeah, and
made.
then there isn't anybody that doesn't get like the piece of the cake.
Right.
Everybody's getting abundance in some way or another, whether
Well, I want
that's
everybody
getting a
to
roof
eat.
on their house or what.
Yeah. I want everybody to be able to sit at the table and eat, right? Like, it doesn't do me any good to have the whole turkey to myself when I look
Hmm.
across the table and everybody else is starving. That doesn't
Yeah.
do anything for me. right? So
And people know you mean that.
Well,
yeah,
yeah, and that's the thing about that's the thing about integrity is now
Yeah.
you have a reputation for it. So
it's
No.
doing the right thing when nobody's
Right.
looking, honestly. And that came from me being in the military and growing up with my grandparents. That's how it was. You just you if you screwed something up, you stepped up, you took the blame, and you said, yeah, it was my fault, I did it, let's fix it and make it right.
Who do you
What's
think?
that?
Who do you think was the biggest influence for you? You know, as a person of integrity.
My grandfather, 100%.
Let's
So
hear it.
I grew up with my grandfather. So my grandfather was in the military. He got out, uh, was married previously, met my grandmother on a blind date. They got married 6 weeks later, and they were married for 47 years until he just recently passed. And I grew up with my grandfather since I was like 3. So for me, it was really him more than anything else. He taught me how to be the person I am today. How to get up every day and work your ass off, and put food on the table and take care of your family. And I never really appreciated it when I was a kid, right? I didn't understand why grandpa couldn't come out and play catch, or do any of those normal things, right? But it's because he was working so much to make sure that we all had what we needed.
And
So
where was he? Sorry, go finish your thought.
no, it's all good. So he was actually in Germany during Vietnam. He was in Germany as a typist, of all things. Yep, on a typewriter. That was his job. So, and then when he got out of the
Oh, and
military,
where
he
was
got
he
into
when you were
construction.
growing up? Did he live with
Uh,
you guys,
so we
or
actually
you
lived
went
with
and
my
visited them?
grandparents.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So I was 2.5, 3. My brother was like 5, 5.5, and we grew up with my grandparents ever since then. So they were more like parents to me, right? So like every Father's Day, I would call him, and even though he's my grandfather, I'd be like, "Hey, I just want to say Happy Father's Day, Dad." And I always called him Grandpa, but he was Dad.
She was a big part of your life.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it
So
was it just the example, like mainly the example of him working super hard and providing for you guys that really influenced you?
yeah, yeah. So him and my grandmother had 3 kids each when they got married, right? So now all of a sudden there were 6 kids in the house. Well, they grew up, and then they took me and my brother in again when I was very young. And then we had 12 foster kids on top of that. So there were 14 kids in the house plus my grandparents. So we all had a job to do, right? So whether it was helping with laundry, helping with dishes, helping with
So all the
cooking,
chores around the house.
taking care of the animals, right? So the youngest kids would go out and they would collect the eggs and the chickens and the ducks, right? The kids that were a little bit older would go out and feed and water the chickens and ducks. The older kids would take care of the cows and stuff like that, because we lived on a little small farm. And he always worked, man. Like he never complained. He never, nothing. He just worked.
Where did he come from? Did he migrate to the States? Is he first generation?
No, nope, nope. He was born here. His dad was born here. Yeah, I don't know. He's just one of those old school guys that just works, and that's just it. And you take care of your people, and well, like the United States used to be, as an example, right? You could work for the same company for 20 years and retire and then move on, right? And now people jump from job to job to job every 2 to 5 years. But that's not how it was growing up. It was you got up and you went to school every day, or you got up and you went to work every day because that was your job. Like, and there was no excuse of, I don't really feel like going to work today.
Right.
It was get your ass out of bed, you're going to work. and I don't know, it's funny. I have nothing but fond memories of Grandpa and some funny stories along the way. And actually, I still have his hammer that he bought like 45 years ago.
His
It is,
hammer.
yeah. So funny thing. So
He's a
we're in
typewriter.
Idaho. So we're in
He
Idaho.
destroyed it.
No,
Ooh, Idaho's nice.
yeah, it was beautiful. So they moved out to Idaho to retire. And so we're doing the celebration of life, and they had some old photos of Grandpa building the house that we grew up in. And well, I think I lost you. Oh, there he is.
Yeah, I'm sorry. My graphics are so bad, so I apologize to everybody. Might not get fixed until in the future, but keep going. Anyway, in Idaho,
We could see you and hear you okay, so
it
Yeah.
just looked horrible on screen. So
might be bad on your end.
We
yeah, I don't
so we're at the celebration of life, and they had some photos and stuff of Grandpa, and there's Grandpa in like 1986, give or take, hanging onto a rafter and working on the house that he built, and hanging from
Wow.
his belt is the hammer. And a couple of years ago, I was talking to him. They came out to visit, and I was like, I have your hammer. And he goes, "You have my East Wing?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Can I have it back?" And I said, "No." I said, "Grandpa, you're 91 years old. I don't want
Mine.
you out there swinging a hammer. Like, it's my hammer now." And I have it. I still use it every day. It's like having Grandpa with me. So
Yeah.
it's pretty cool. But yeah, he was a huge part of my life growing up. Just doing the right thing, man. Like that's, and then I'd say probably the other big part was Alice Walker. So Alice Walker, yeah. So she's a famous author. You'll probably recognize the movie The Color Purple.
I've heard of that.
So Alice Walker wrote The Color Purple, but she also wrote the movie became famous because it had Oprah Winfrey in it years ago, or Whoopi Goldberg, or one of the two of them. But the book was way better. Usually it ends up that way. So she wrote The Color Purple, which is one of the ones she's most well known for. But she also wrote another book called The Third Life of Grange Copeland. And the premise of the book was that every person has the inherent ability to change for the better or for the worse, given their choices and their reactions.
Yeah. Wow. Nice.
And it was,
and it goes back, I think, to the Legos too. You have the control. You can do whatever you want.
Are you gonna break it?
You can break it down, build it up again.
Yeah.
Even you can build something entirely different with the same pieces.
Yeah.
There's a quote for the end of our videos, Dan. We got to get ready to wrap up. I have a couple more questions. First off, I love your grandfather's a role model. It makes me think of mine. He grew up in the Great Depression and ended up taking care of most of his family and ended up serving. I was curious, what branch did you serve in?
So my grandfather was Army. I was Army. My dad was Navy. Yeah.
Okay. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I know. It's tough. The Navy's always really good for a ride to the fight. So.
Yep. Well, you're safe. You get your space from it. You get your long distance range. But my second to last question is, quickly, can you rattle off one of your biggest successes so far and one of your biggest failures post starting your business?
Yeah. So probably one of my biggest successes so far. I met with a homeowner to discuss roofing on a project they were doing in Windham, New Hampshire. I went out, I gave him a price for the roofing, and he goes, "Where do I sign?" And I said, "I didn't get you the proposal yet, man." Like, because I always do every. Danny will tell you, he saw some of the proposals. They're very detailed. I want to make sure that the homeowner knows exactly what you're getting, what the price breakdown of everything is, like down to the nails.
Yeah, you kind of walk me through it.
Yeah, because I want to make sure you know what you're getting. Like I don't want a surprise like at the end. I'm a homeowner. I hate surprises.
Yeah.
Oh, especially with people's houses. It's their baby,
Yeah, like don't get me wrong. There's sometimes when you're pulling the shingles off, right, and you find some rotted plywood or whatever. That's expected, right? Hey, just so you know, this is stuff that we could find when we go to do your roof.
Right.
But nobody wants a, hey, you quoted me $10,000 for my roof, but you're telling me I need 15,000 now. Like, it's
So he's right on it.
yeah. So I gave him a really fair price. And I said, if you don't mind me asking, I said, why did you choose to go with me so easily? He's like, dude, you gave me a detailed proposal. Everything is broken down. Or sorry, I didn't get him the proposal yet. He goes, you broke down everything. You told me all the materials you're going to use. He goes, and your rough price you just gave me is half of what everybody else told me. So they literally looked at this house and were like, this guy's got money. Let's charge him extra.
Yeah.
Right. I looked at the scope of the roof. I could care less how much money you make. I don't care. I looked at the size of the roof and I charged accordingly for it. That's it. And so my biggest success is actually he reached out to me after I sent him the final proposal and everything was signed off on. And he goes, hey, do you do siding too? Because we're looking to do about $160,000 siding job. $160,000.
Wow. Nice.
The house that they want to reside and in the new in-law apartment, which is literally the size of a small house, and then the garage is it's astronomically huge.
Someone was busy, huh?
Yeah, it's nuts. I mean, legit 160,000. And probably my biggest failure was not hiring somebody to help me sooner.
What do you mean by that?
So there's a lot of great programs out there, and one of the guys I like to listen to a lot is Dimitri, who runs Roofing Insights on YouTube.
Is that the guy you sent? Cool. Yeah, you sent him to me, I think.
Yeah, some of the information. Yeah. He's got some great points on stuff, and same thing. He's an
immigrant. Oh yeah, I learned. I watched a couple.
Came here with nothing. Yeah. And so same thing. So I love to listen to him, right? And it doesn't. I don't care what he's talking about. There's always a nugget somewhere in there, and you're like, oh, I didn't think of that. And so I was doing everything in my first year all by myself, and toward the end of November-ish, I was getting burnt out. I was like, I don't.
You mean like management wise?
Yeah. So I was doing all the estimates, right? I was meeting every single customer. I was going to every single house and working with the crew, and the crew is like, Sam, you're the boss. You can just sit, do whatever, go whatever. And I'm like, that's not me. That's not who I am, right? So if I'm asking you to move 80-pound bundles of shingles, I'm going to move 80-pound bundles of shingles.
Right.
So,
and that's a sign of a good leader.
One day you
is someone who
it is.
Actually,
but one day
leads by example. So
that's I'm not going to yell at you to get in the trench, man, if I'm not willing to get in the trench with you. Right. So
they're like, we're so afraid to lose you that we just taped you to this chair because we don't want you to die. We need you.
There, and it's funny, right? So this year in December, I actually hired a guy, Carden. I've known Carden 20 years, and he's helped me streamline a lot of the naming conventions between the programs, just a second set of eyes, and creating new templates in the sales programs. And one of the funny things he said to me was, are there anything else that goes into this as a roof? Because he had never done roofing before. And I said, yeah, you need this. And he goes, so how the hell was I supposed to know that? He goes, I don't do roofing. And I'm like, oh. He goes, yeah, you got to dumb it down even more. And I was like, I didn't think of that because I already know I need other items.
That difference in perspective is enormous.
Yeah. So and he's been fantastic. But I think if I had to pick my best success story, dude, honestly, is my crew. So my crew's all from Ecuador. And I've been learning more and more Spanish, and they've been learning English from me. But we're like a giant family, honestly. My daughter
Nice.
calls my foreman uncle. Um, and we just take care of each other. And he just had his new son 2 months ago. I was like the second person that got a picture of the baby. Like,
Wow.
Congrats, Uncle.
literally
That's great.
sent it to his folks and sent me a picture and was like,
That's
Sam
when you
just
know your
born.
family.
Yeah, yeah, and
I
to
want.
me, man, that's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
right. Yeah. Oh, I can imagine a lot of people who are jealous like that. It's like who else has that kind of connection with their boss?
yeah, but even when I ran the U-Haul in Manchester, though, like I threw a Christmas party for the crew every year, and the company didn't do it. I did it, and I made sure that every single kid of all the employees that were under me got a Christmas gift. Didn't matter if it was a $400 gift or a $5 gift. It's whatever they absolutely wanted to have that their parents couldn't afford to get them.
Yeah.
I made sure it happened, and my crew loved me for it. I had great loyalty. It's just, but that's me as a person, right? I'm going to take care of the people.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's some big key messages. And the first one is, if you see something wrong, you need to fix it. It's like you were working in a situation that you didn't like. It didn't please you. It wasn't in aligned with your values. And so you didn't just go and find another job. You left the job and created an even better atmosphere. You created the ideal atmosphere. You created a job where people wanted to be a part of and
Yeah.
lived to the point where they felt like family. Right. That's the first big thing. Because I see so many people, we all do this. I think I can say I do. Is like, oh boy, we're running out of time again. And it's like where you see something wrong, and the easy thing is to either stay in that job even though you don't like it, move to another job or situation, whatever it is. But the real call to action is to take what you know, create something new, and make it better. The other thing I wanted to point out was you shared that story with the gentleman who just signed on without even seeing the rest of the paperwork, right?
Yeah.
And the thing that struck me there was it's always worth the extra time and effort. Like put it in, period. Always put the extra time in. It's always worth it, right? Because you taking the time to break down all that stuff for this guy, he didn't even need to see the rest of it.
Yep.
You put all that time and effort in to the point where you almost didn't even need to because he was willing to pay you before you even, because he could see that you were willing to put the time in, so it was worth his time.
Yep.
So that was
It built so
I don't
much
know, that
trust.
just stood out for me. I don't know, Dan, you might have another question. I want to ask you because we got to wrap up. Um, something, one tip you recommend or piece of advice you recommend for people trying to start a business, and one piece of life advice for people.
Yeah. So probably my biggest tip, if you really want to start a business, do your research first. Have build a business plan. Everybody's like, oh, it's just a business plan. No, dude, if you build an actual business plan, it will give you a much better understanding of where your strengths, your weaknesses are, what your competition around you is like, what are the rates looking like around you. It's not just I have to do this because the bank wants it. It really dials you in to know, all right, is this something I can actually do?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Be a professional in your field.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nobody wants to. You don't. If somebody's going to you for a product or your business, you want to be. You want to know your competition.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, and you should know your competition. You should know, the
Know
people
your
around
enemy.
you and the way they operate. So, and honestly, for a life advice, I will tell you, probably the biggest thing I live by, man, is and it's gonna sound cheesy as hell, but pay it forward.
Yeah.
That's a huge thing for me, right? Like I didn't make money getting my guy's shoes, right? But at the end of the day, I go home and put my head down on my pillow and I sleep damn good.
Yeah.
And it's not always about how can I make more money for this or how can I do this or sometimes it's just being a good human being, and so I really do. I live
I
by
don't
the
think
pay it
that's
forward.
sometimes. I think that's all. I mean, I think half the problems that people have on many different levels, be it physical, emotional, mental, is not being a good human being and knowing they're not being a good human being and not changing that. So
Yep.
I can't remember the word you just used, but I would say no. Like literally, most of people's problems probably stem from that. Is
Yep.
knowing you could be doing something right, better, or more appropriately and not doing it. I think that
Yep.
absolutely destroys people.
Turn a blind eye to something that is wrong, and
Mhm.
that's
Ignorance is not bliss. Ignorance
no.
is bliss until it's not. And it's
Yeah. Yep.
subconsciously it's not bliss at all. Or subconsciously, yeah, subconsciously it's not bliss. Did I say that
But
right? I might not say that right.
I got what you meant. I'm picking up what you're putting
Yeah,
down.
yeah,
But
yeah.
honestly, that would be my biggest thing, man, is pay it forward and just remember integrity is doing the right thing even when nobody's looking. And that makes all the difference. Like if you walking down,
Yeah.
it can be something super small and inconsequential to you, but it could be something huge to somebody else. Right. So
Yeah.
the two kind of go hand in hand in the sense that if you're walking down the street, right, and you see somebody struggling to carry groceries, hey, can I give you a hand with that? For you, it's the most menial task, right? Of carrying groceries, whatever. But for that person, that could be the biggest difference. That could make or break their whole day. Just it doesn't always have to be about money or being better than
Or
somebody
you.
else. Just you just have to be better than you were the day
Mhm.
before, right? You as an individual need to constantly strive to be a better person, a better individual every day, right? And you stumble sometimes. We all stumble, right? And then you pick yourself back up, or you rebuild yourself like Legos, right? And you try again.
And I think like we kind of said, when you go forward in life and you're trying your best to do what's right, and you actually know you're trying your best, like you said, you can go to sleep at night just fine. You can lay your head down on the pillow and go to sleep. Because
Yep.
even if you didn't succeed, you genuinely put the effort in
Yeah.
to the point where you might not even say it was trying. You basically did it, even if you didn't do it well.
Well, and that's the funny thing is that um, I think my close rate is somewhere around 75% of my jobs that I go out and do an
That's
estimate
phenomenal.
for, which
Wow,
is
that's really
unheard of
yeah.
in the industries.
Mhm.
But it's because I don't, I don't come out with a bunch of BS, right? I don't want to tell you what you want to hear, right? I tell it like it is, and I have an open, upfront, honest conversation. And even when I meet my customers or I schedule an inspection with them, I say, look, hey man, there's no pressure. I'm not doing any high pressure sales. I don't want you to feel uncomfortable. I'm going to literally come. I'm going to take some pictures. I'm going to look. We'll have a simple conversation. I said, then I'm going to send you the proposal. If you like what you see, you sign off on it. I get notified. I'll give you a holler, or I'll shoot you an email. We'll schedule an install date that's convenient for you. That's it. No pressure, no nothing.
And
I said,
there, right there is again the strongest negotiation position is being able to say no and walk away. And your indifference about it. You're like, hey, here's the thing. If you want it, awesome. If you don't want it, it's okay, no stress. And your ability to walk away, again,
I've
is a
had
really
customers.
strong place to come from.
I've had customers that I actually had one guy. He goes, it's really expensive. Don't you get your materials for like 50% off? I said, dude, if I got my materials for 50% off, I would be ecstatic. I said, but I don't. If a bundle of shingles at Lowe's costs you $43.50, guess what I'm paying? $43.50. Like
Yeah.
it's not I'm not U-Haul, I'm not Ford or Chevy, or you know what I mean? I don't get these massive discounts for buying billions of dollars in bulk. Um, and he goes, "Oh, I think you're just saying that." And I'm like, "Listen, man," I said, "maybe I'm just not the contractor for you." And I walked away from the job.
Yeah.
It was like a $26,000 job. I walked away from it because you know what? I don't. At the end of the day, if you don't want to trust me, I'm probably not the contractor for
Yeah.
you. Then I'll show you the
Indifference. Yeah.
receipts. I can show you what I pay for everything. It's right in the proposal. It's the same thing. If you Google search something in my proposal, one of the items, and you Google search it, it's going to pull up Lowe's or Home Depot or something, and you're going to see the pricing is exactly the same.
Yeah.
So
would you like to advertise your business? You know, the area you work out of, your you know, if you want, more than welcome to at this time.
yeah, so we work pretty much southern New Hampshire, but I mean I go all the way up to Lakewood and Pisaki for jobs. We'll pretty much travel just about anywhere for roofing, to be honest with you. It's funny. Roofing and siding, we pretty much travel anywhere. I just started doing decks this year. We started doing doors and windows this year. In fact, the house I looked at today, I told the homeowner, he goes, "Oh, you do doors?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "What about this door?" And I said, "Honestly, you're better off refinishing it." He goes, "Really?" And I said, "You're going to get a crappy door from Lowe's or Home Depot. It's going to cost you about $3,600. I said, "And your door that's on here is from 1901 when the house was built. 2, it's solid red oak. It's 48 inches wide."
Oh my gosh.
Right? On the front and back door. I said, "Your front and back door."
You're like, "I'll pay you for that."
His front and back door, legit, if you were to buy one and have it specially made for this, you're talking $10,000 to $15,000 for each door.
Yeah.
Because
I bet.
It's a specialty
Solid
thing.
oak.
Mm-hmm. You do chimneys too. That's what I saw.
Yeah, so we also do chimneys,
Chimney,
and my foreman's dad does all the masonry work for us, rebuilding chimneys, and we're actually getting ready. I'm meeting a client tomorrow to do a patio stone patio.
All right, great. Anyways, we got to finish up. So
And
adios,
yeah,
muchachos.
thanks for
Integrity
being
Roofing.
on, Sam. Peace.